Once upon a stitch in time, 4 legendary names stood at the heart of the sewing world. Vogue, Butterick, McCalls, and Simplicity. These weren't just pattern companies, but they were the guiding hands for generations of sewists. I know my great-grandmother has bins of these that I have inherited, as many of you have probably as well. If you follow my page and you enjoy sewing, we are probably the same. From their carefully drafted patterns, beautiful envelopes with absolutely stunning illustrations. I, as a costume designer, use a lot of those as references. But these sewing patterns and these sewing companies weren't just tools. They were innovations into a world of creativity that allowed people to exercise and practice and hone their sewing skills and participate in one of the oldest forms of self-expression, making your own clothing. The Butterick Company was the pioneer. Founded in 1863 by Ebenezer Butterick, he revolutionized the world of sewing by introducing pre-designed, multi-sized sewing patterns. What began as an innovation into making kids' clothing turned into a full fashion business spanning all forms of women's and men's accessories and clothing. The patterns evolved to match the styles of the time, and over the decades, Butterick was known for its accuracy, clarity in instructions, and its promotion of timeless silhouettes. McCalls was the second company, following in 1870, just 7 years after the founding of Butterick. McCalls was founded by a gentleman named James McCall, who was a Scottish tailor who saw the potential of publishing sewing patterns alongside sewing magazines. McCall's magazine, which later became McCall's Pattern Book, became a household name, not just for its stylish and trend-driven patterns, but for its empowering focus on women not just as mothers and homemakers, but as fashion enthusiasts and creative innovators. The McCalls brand thrived throughout the 20th century, and it evolved with the times as well, and it eventually included patterns for menswear, children's wear, and even home decor and accessories. Then came Simplicity in 1927. She was like the cool new girl of the sewing group, and Simplicity offered budget-friendly patterns during the Great Depression. Simplicity's motto was very straightforward: to make sewing simple and affordable for everyone. Simplicity gained popularity for its easy-to-follow instructions, cool modern silhouettes, and wide accessibility. Probably one of the only businesses that really thrived during the Great Depression, that and the feed bags. This was also one of my favorite things that they did, was they re-released their sewing patterns in extended range sizes. And due to this innovative business technique of really being in tune with their sewing community, Simplicity became an everyday brand. It catered to both beginners and seasoned stitchers. And for many, Simplicity is some of the first patterns that they pick up to sew for themselves. It's very accessible. And while Vogue did come onto the scene in 1899, it didn't really gain popularity until the 1930s, which is why I put it last. This rise in popularity was due to their partnership with top couturiers who were commissioned to create original Vogue Paris patterns. These patterns allowed home sewists to recreate high fashion designs. From the likes of Dior, Balenciaga, Givenchy, Vogue helped elevate pattern sewing into an aspirational art form. Vogue patterns eventually became synonymous with couture-level sewing patterns and sewing skills. As a sewer myself, I got my start working with all 4 of these different types of patterns. And together, these 4 companies not only shaped the sewing world at large, but they absolutely shaped how I exist. I'm a costume designer. I have my master's in costume design. I know how to draft my own patterns, but I will always reach for a sewing pattern that I can go ahead and alter or reference. And the reason I have the skill sets that I have is because of the work that I have done over the years using these sewing patterns. These four companies documented decades of changing styles. From the turn of the century to post-war pinups to the boho 70s to the clean lines of the 90s to the home sewing absolute extravaganza that we're seeing now. I can't imagine a world where these companies don't exist. News of their liquidation is so absolutely devastating. And it seems that despite attempts at relaunching patterns, relaunching into the digital age, somehow these iconic brands could not withstand the changing of the market. And they were sold for $1 to a liquidator. I can't fathom the why or the how of it. This is a truly devastating loss, not just to the sewing community at large, but to the entire fashion world. These brands have shaped, over the last 150 years, women's and men's and at-home sewists' fashion and accessories and ability to exist within a world where you are self-sufficient in some capacity. Making your own clothing is such a connection to a true human form of expression. And the loss of these four companies is just, I'm pretty speechless. With Joann's closing and now these four companies closing, it feels incredibly dark out here for people who love to sew at home, or for those of us who work in the costume industry or the fashion industry and use these patterns as reference for our art, our craft, our hobby. I don't know if it's the general devaluation of craft work, a lack of understanding of how important this knowledge is, or a grand conspiracy to make people super reliant on a corporate industry like the fast fashion world. We've seen quite a rise of at-home sewists communicating with each other here on this app and on other apps as well. I don't know what it is, but thinking about this gives me the worst heartburn. I'm just so upset. And I know that if you sew, that you are too. So we're going to keep watching this space. We're going to wait and see what happens. Because of this, I'm thinking about maybe teaching classes on pattern making and draping, but that really doesn't supplement or replace the devastating loss that liquidating these four companies for $1. It's so upsetting.